Mick Mulvaney, the acting chief of staff. Where does this put you?
Anna, this has been a very difficult 24 hours for me. The issue of impeachment is really big to me. And when I heard what Mulvaney said, the chief of staff of the president, it pushed me really across the Rubicon. And I'll tell you why. Withholding military aid, vital military aid, to a nation like Ukraine, which has Russian troops inside its territory, that's threatened all the time, that withholding it so that a political operation can take place, investigate this thing around the server, and we're going to withhold the aid until you do that. To me, it's totally inappropriate. It's an abuse of power. Now, I know that there are presidents that will withhold aid because they have policy differences, but this is not a policy difference. And so my view is that, look, I fought with people on the air about, is there a quid pro quo, and does this rise to the level of impeachment? I now believe that it does. And
Okay.
I say it with great sadness. This is not something I really wanted to do. I mean, I voted to impeach Bill Clinton, and that was really hard. And this has been excruciatingly hard. But this kind of behavior, in my opinion, cannot be tolerated, and action is going to have to be taken.
Let me get some clarification from you, though. When you say you believe this behavior rises to the level of impeachment, are you saying, yes, this president should be impeached based on what we know now? And does that also mean that you believe he should be tried in the Senate and removed from office?
First of all, I want to see what the articles of impeachment are that the Democrats put together. And secondly, I don't like the way they've conducted this without having a vote on an impeachment inquiry. But if you're asking me if I was sitting in the House of Representatives today, and you were to ask me, how do I feel? Do I think impeachment should move forward and should go for a full examination and a trial in the United States Senate? My vote would be yes. And I don't say it lightly. This is extremely difficult for me, but it's what I feel I have to do. It's what my conscience tells me. You can't operate like this and withhold vital military aid for somebody because you're involved in some sort of a political examination or pressure on a foreign government to do this. It's inappropriate.
Well, now to our exclusive reporting on the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. The CNN has learned that he appears to have been even more involved in trying to dig up dirt on Democrats than many previously knew. Sources say that Giuliani asked the State Department and then the White House to grant a visa to a former Ukrainian official who promised damaging information on the president's political rivals. Victor Shokin, he never did get that visa to enter the U.S.
Joining me now to discuss is Ross Garber, CNN legal analyst and impeachment attorney, along with CNN political analyst Margaret Talev. Good morning to you both. Margaret, let's start with you first regarding the CNN exclusive reporting. How significant is it as we're learning just how deeply Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, was involved allegedly digging up dirt on the Democrats?
Yeah, well, good morning. This really has been the overarching story of the week is Rudy Giuliani's central involvement in basically every aspect of this channel of investigation. And so the idea that this character, Mr. Shulkin, who's kind of connects so closely to the Joe Biden thread here, and the idea that with President Trump's knowledge, Giuliani was conducting these interviews, these investigations, had sort of created a parallel channel when it came to the Ukraine from the standard diplomatic protocols. And now this reporting from what Mr. Kent is said to have said in his interviews behind closed doors with Congress this week suggests that that Giuliani was involved to the extent of then asking the State Department and then bypassing the normal channels and asking the White House, in fact, to to bring people to the United States in order to conduct these investigations. It just sort of paints a deeper picture of of his involvement from the outside, seeking to use the levers inside of government. And when you see the range of people who are going to be asked to come talk to Congress behind closed doors next week, you can be certain that this will be now an additional line of inquiry in those interviews.
Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, Republican from Kentucky, has just released an op-ed in the Washington Post. It's titled, "Withdrawing from Syria is a grave mistake." He writes, quote, "The United States has sacrificed much in years-long campaigns to defeat al-Qaeda and the Islamic State and stabilize the conflicts that foster extremism. But while the political will to continue this hard work may wax and wane, the threats to our nation aren't going anywhere." This is one of the few issues where Republicans have been willing to criticize the president's decision, even if they refuse to even mention President Trump's name. It's as if it's an immaculate conception of a bad foreign policy idea.
Yeah, it is a grave mistake. And it's a good step that Mitch McConnell is saying this. But this was entirely predictable. Why is he saying it today? What, a week after this was announced? Thousands of people are on the run, hundreds, countless killed. So, yes, it's nice that he is admitting now it's a grave mistake. But we need to go a little bit further and look at Donald Trump as a foreign policy president. We're talking about Ukraine. We're talking about Turkey. We're talking about Syria. What is going right here? Donald Trump didn't consult with anybody on this decision. He didn't notify Congress. Congress had no role in this. So how did he make this decision? That's what's missing from this conversation. How and why did we get here?
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody in the Senate is going to find out, but they can tell us how they will stop it from happening again.
Mick Mulvaney laid out a quid pro quo. What is your response?
Well, yeah, whatever might have been gray and unclear before is certainly quite clear right now that the actions were related to getting some of the Ukraine to do some of these things. I think that, as you just put on there, Senator Murkowski said it perfectly. We're not supposed to use government power and prestige for political gain.
In your eyes, Congressman, is that an impeachable offense?
That's something I really can't answer. I mean, I've been reading about this impeachment business. I went to law school, but I don't really practice law. But I did read something today that really impeachment's whatever the majority of the House members say it is. So if that's the case, I guess anything is.
Well, but sir, honestly, in your mind, then, if that is the definition for you, do you think that this rises to the level of impeachment? You just said it is very clear now that there was a quid pro quo, that defense money from Ukraine was withheld so that a politically motivated investigation could be promised. Is that impeachable?
I don't know. I want to study it some more. I want to hear the next set of testimony next week from a couple more ambassadors, but it's certainly very, very serious and troubling.
Well, respectfully, sir, what don't you know? I mean, if that is what happened, which the White House just laid out, what is the unknown for you still on that front? Meaning, what more do you want to hear?
Probably the only unknown would be if this is such of gravitas, or whatever you want to say, so grave and serious that it rises to the level of impeachment. I mean, I don't think this is as much as Richard Nixon did, but I'm very mindful of the fact that back during Watergate, everybody said, oh, it's a witch hunt to get Nixon. Turns out it wasn't a witch hunt. It was absolutely correct. So I just want to make sure that I get all the data I can get. And I'm talking to everybody I can talk to understand all this.
I think that's fair, but it's clear to me you're saying at this point you are not ruling out the possibility that this is an impeachable offense for the president.
I don't think you could rule anything out till you know all the facts. Okay. Every time one of these people testifies, we get more information about what was going on over there.